Good Wednesday afternoon to you. Welcome to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk City KOH. It's a pleasure to be with you and a pleasure to be with my partner, Mr. Jason Gant. How you be, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I heard you were sick last night. That darn cough's getting you like everybody else around here, huh?
Right. Yeah. Just wrapping up the first segment of the show. And man, I started hacking. And yeah, thank God Dwight was on the show and Corey were on the show. And I just passed the baton like nothing happened. But
Yeah,
yeah, it was good. Yeah, this thing just doesn't go away. I
it's
mean, it's been a
tough.
month now. It's actually, what am I saying? A month, almost, well, month and a half now. Yeah, got it right before
Uh,
Christmas. And
we'll get
completely
better.
recovered, and then over the weekend had the grandbabies out, and I don't know if I got something from them again or what it was, but yeah, it's yeah, I do apologize for all of you yesterday, but yeah, that's the joys of live radio. Right?
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah,
We're
just
not
never
AI.
never no, not at all, not yet. How you be, my friend?
Good, good.
Good.
Busy here. Markets are chopping around. Not feel a little, I would say, negatively biased. They do underneath the covers.
Yeah,
We can point out
man,
some
oh man,
things,
no
but
kidding.
all good things. This is
Yeah,
what we're trained for. So, but
absolutely,
yeah, good.
absolutely. We get the gray hairs so the clients don't have to. That's the way the saying
Hmm.
goes.
Right.
Well, it was a very interesting session. We're going to tell you what happened today, of course, as we go through our market recap. We had a non-farm payroll number come in, the late non-farm payroll number. This was the one that was supposed to come out a week or so ago, but of course they delayed it when we had the government shutdown for a short period of time. But number came in way better than expected, and you'd think, oh my gosh, that's a great thing. This is one of those days where it was glass half full or half empty. It all depended upon, what side of the Fed interest rate cut fence that you found yourself on. And so we'll tell you about that, tell you about the latest probabilities as far as when the next rate cut is expected by
Hmm.
the street, what the probability of that is. Then we're going to get into our very interesting topic today. This is going to be a fun one, Jay. If you're thinking about retiring soon, you have to always be asking yourself, as we touch on so many times on this program, are you financially ready? And are you mentally ready to do it? Well, even though, let's just say, hypothetically, we hope and pray that you have the big nest egg all built up, you might still be questioning if the timing is right. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to run you through a little challenge here. We're going to give you 10 things that will help. I just say there are 10 signs that we think if you answer yes to the majority of these, you are probably mentally ready to retire. And as you've heard us say many times over the years, you can be financially ready, but if you're not mentally ready, you are not going to enjoy retirement. I've seen it way too many times, and especially us men. If you still feel needed and wanted at the job and you need that ego boost for people asking your expertise and so on and so forth, you're probably going to have a miserable retirement because I promise you your wife is not going to be pumping up your ego like employees would. So today, again, we're going to go through this almost like a little quiz and say, okay, if you're feeling this way, maybe think, you may psychologically be starting to mentally check out of the job and be retired or wanting to retire. So it's going to be a kind of a fun topic. And I think something that many of you may be thinking about. Beginning of the year seems to be the time where a lot of people do begin contemplating retirement. And they're like, all right, this is the last year, December 31st at, 9 a.m. in the morning, I'm done. I'm out of here. So I thought it would be a good timely topic for everybody.
Yeah, the CEO of I think Coca-Cola was on today, and he had a cool line where he said, everyone always feels like it's a day too early when you retire until
Yes.
it's a day too late. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, that's
exactly.
really
Yeah.
good.
Yep. I heard that. Yeah, you get a lot of these CEOs. That's a funny point you bring up. You get a lot of these CEOs that shock the street when they announce their retirement, right? They're like, yep, I'm out of here. And the guy's, early 60s and, he's rich and
Yeah,
everything.
killed it,
And
right? Go enjoy it.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you go, well, wait a minute, why are you doing it? And exactly to Jason's point, these guys like to get out on top. They don't like to wait till, earnings are way down, their stock is way down, and so on and so forth. And then that way they can get out, probably cash in a bunch of stock options and actual shares that they own, capitalize on that. And then most importantly, these guys have huge egos, these guys and gals, huge egos. And if something happens where the stock does go down when they've left, they can go, it wasn't my fault. It was the new guy that took over. So, it's always a funny one to watch these CEOs of publicly traded companies and how they make their retirement announcements. And generally, you and I both know this, Jay, they rarely do they ever fully retire. Usually they'll become chairman emeritus or the chairman of the board, but they're not CEO anymore. They'll kind of like phase them out. Rarely do they ever just, hit the highway and and never come back unless they've done something wrong. Yeah, it's funny. Now, the rest of us don't have that luxury though to say, oh yeah, I'm going to cash out today, and I'm going to go. And the one that would get me, this final point I'll mention, the one that would get me is when the stock price shoots through the roof when you announce your retirement, right? That you see that a lot. That's always a funny one to see too. Like, oh, okay, I guess they didn't like me as
Sweet.
much there. I did.
I
Yeah,
guess it was a day too late. Yeah, right.
yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's get down to today's market activity, and then we'll get to our 10 signs you may be ready to retire topic. Let's go back. We had a pretty good pre-market session actually. We were up, about 230 points right before the market opened at 6:30 this morning, and it was just nothing but a real fade coming our way. And we already had the non-farm payroll numbers come in. And I want to kind of start with this non-farm payroll number, Jason, because what was interesting is, I'm looking at my notes. My first update at 5:23, so obviously 7 minutes before the numbers came out, we were only up about 84 points on the Dow futures. Nasdaq's were up 55, S&P's up 15. Well, the Dow and the Nasdaq shot up triple digits not long after the release of that report. Like I said, right before the market. So the market had about an hour to digest it. And at that point, they loved the numbers. But then they went, and this is what I was saying a moment ago: the glass half full, the glass half empty. So let's go through these numbers and give the perspective of what they were looking for. So we start off with, let's go to the headline number, the non-farm payroll number itself. 130,000 jobs created, estimates 55,000.
Right. I mean, and we are in a situation right now where the market wants rate cuts. That seems to be the fuel that they're looking for. So payrolls, jobs, they're going to be the thing for the next 3 months, I would say.
Hmm.
Probably more than any other data point. CPI could be important, right? But anything that
Friday.
is either inflationary or overcooked will make the market angsty because it's not going to get the opium of rate cuts, which are priced into a lot of areas, small cap stocks, other interest rate sensitive areas of the market, in this growth panic, I would say, right around the Googles and Microsofts and such, continues to be more of a sell rallies than buy dips type mindset.
Hmm.
And until that changes, it seems that you're going to see this data hungry reactionary market versus something that's looking through data expecting good news later. We're more in that, let's see what happens today and then trade off it, versus I think something's going to happen wonderful in 3 to 5 months. I'm
Hmm.
going to ignore the day to day, which I prefer the latter versus the more retail driven high frequency big moves on single stocks because of interest rates or macro. It gets a little tougher to be an investor. You end up acting and feeling more like a trader, and I think that's what the market's doing.
So 55,000 was the expectation. Again, 130,000. The glass half full, the glass half empty. We can make an argument of this. Back to you're absolutely right on this rate side of it. This is what weighed on the market today. So if you're in the optimistic camp, you can say, oh, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. We got 130,000 jobs. We're only expecting 55,000 jobs. And the economy's doing great. Things are looking good. People are going back to work, on and on and on. Because, again, that's a pretty significant differential between expectation and reality. Theoretically, as I mentioned on the stock update this morning with Ross, historically, 130,000 is not that many jobs, right? We like to see it up in that normal range of, low 200,000. That's a good solid Goldilocks number. But if you can go, okay, economy's doing great. People are going back to work. The number's heading in the right direction. Beautiful. That should be fare very well for, of course, the most important driver of a stock price, which is the earnings per share. But yet the other camp, which ended up winning today, the bear side of it, said exactly as you said, oh, this isn't good. This is too strong of a number for the Fed to come to the rescue. Now, let's kind of set the table straight on this. 25 basis point cut is what the street is expecting on the June 17th meeting. Okay, so we got a long ways to go, as Jason just said. Right now, that probability stands at 60%. Coming into yesterday, that number was at 75%. So you can see how significant the expectation drops down just off of this non-farm payroll number.
Yeah, and it's the post Powell meeting, right? So it's going to stay above 50% regardless of what the data is, because the thought is once Warsh comes in, he's cutting right away. And at least that's what the market expectation is. But if the data is so compelling against him, which I don't expect it to be, you'll get more of that panic, right? Where people are like, oh no, they're not going to cut rates. Things are too heated, which again, I think is a positive. Ironically, that's a good thing if we're heated and creating jobs. Part of it too was the jobs today were what, healthcare and I don't know,
Big
the
area. Yeah. About
services. They weren't
120,000
really like
plus.
tech and the
Right.
areas that are growthy. It was more the, cyclical areas that tend to
Yes.
hire and fire
Yep.
more often.
That weighed on things. No doubt about it. Private sector job growth, 172,000. If we go back to December's private sector job growth, that number was at 64,000. So big boom on the private side of things.
And private hiring is going to be key, I think, for a while versus it being all government led hiring. But
Don't see a
interest
lot of
rates
that
will be
happening.
key to that too, for sure, as
Yes,
far
indeed.
as the private side staying up.
And finally, the most important thing in the report from a headline number, we really don't care about it too much, but we did have an unemployment drop from 4.4% down to 4.3%. Again, a good, decent, solid number there. Nothing too hot, nothing too cold from the unemployment standpoint side of things. So, like I said, this I think had you tossed a coin today, it could have gone either direction in the market. Obviously, the Bears won out today slightly. Again, it wasn't all that bad of a day, but it was definitely a down day. And again, most importantly, it hurt from where we shot up at the open to obviously where we finished. We'll tell you what those numbers were and some of the big movers and shakers when we come back. Let's turn it over to Kristen Snow. She's in the Right Now Traffic Center. Hello, Kristen. Back to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Jason Gott. All right, here's how we finished up. Again, didn't look like much of an exciting day. Kind of, oh, okay, yeah, big deal. Just a little light on the numbers. But again, it was where we were compared to where we finished. Finished down 67 on the Dow, just a fraction of a percent loss to 50,121. NASDAQ gave up 36 points at a level of 23,066, and the S&P unchanged at a level of 6,941. Russell 2000 down about 0.38%. We just got some breaking news. The House just voted to override Trump's Canadian tariffs. Well, that's interesting. Didn't know they were even voting on that one. See what kind of impact does see with the House passed a
Yeah,
resolution
what happened
disapproving
to
of Trump's
the
tariffs
big
against
vote?
Canada.
Yeah, what happened to the big vote around overturning all of them? Wasn't there that supposed to sit out there at some point? It
That's
seems like it
still
just
sitting in
disappeared.
the Supreme Court. Yeah, still
Okay,
waiting
but
on
it's
the
just like,
decision there.
we'll get back to you,
Yeah,
right, at
that's
some
about it.
point?
Well,
Cool.
we'll tell you when we're ready. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, 3 weeks ago, they were like really close. They were supposed to have a decision and then they bumped it up. And yeah, it's been quiet the last week or so. So, this real quickly House today or just now just passed a resolution disapproving of President Trump's tariffs against Canada, below to Speaker Mike Johnson, and a rare Republican rebuke of the president's signature economic policy. Cleared the House 219 to 211, with several Republicans crossing the aisle to support it. One Democrat of Maine voted against the measure. Well, we'll see what kind of reaction that has tomorrow, if any. But yeah, it's, Trump has said, this is going to cost our country, what did he say, billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars if the Supreme Court rules against the Trump tariffs. We will see what happens there. I don't know, but not seeing much reaction in the futures yet. Obviously, the news just came out. So let's hit a couple of the movers, my friend. What
Yeah.
stood out on your radar today?
I mean, the mega caps are certainly what I'm looking at. Google, Amazon continue to be weak post earnings season. I think there was some, depending on the name, there was some run up. Cisco's down 7% after the close, just on the run up into the report. We've talked about it a ton of times. You've got the results, but you've also got what was the momentum into said results? How is the positioning of the street once these things are released? I mean, Cisco numbers were good from everything that I saw, and it's down, 6% after the close. And it's just reaction. And unfortunately, like I said, it feels like more of a trader market than an investor market right now.
Definitely.
I was looking at
Definitely.
some charts saying that the software, the weakness in software
Mhm.
relative to the S&P is worse than the dot-com bubble as far as the unwind that took place in so many of those names, which I think is notable. And then you've got the crowding on the other side of the SanDisks and Microns and Western Digitals and all those
Mhm.
names that continue to go higher off of the storage needs for many
Mhm.
of these data centers. So I think that continues to dominate the narrative. You got the one-offs from earnings. Generac up 17+% today was obviously a big mover, but had been one that folks have chased after and then panic sell and then chase after again. I think Robinhood, that's one of those stories that clearly crypto linked. Every time that Bitcoin and these things have these death swoons, those tend to underperform. But, that's a company that's been doing a lot to diversify what they actually give access to. It's not just crypto anymore. It's not just single stock trading. They've done a lot of the whatever side betting thing is called
I was
with,
going to say the betting markets. Yep.
right. I mean, just it ultimately like Vegas, right? If you're in a position that you're just catching the spread all the time, you really don't care about which direction things are going. But that stock was down 8+% today
Hmm.
as well. I mean, the move in Bitcoin has been notable. I don't think there's been a lot of real good color on why, right? I mean, other than the Bitcoin haters will tell you it's going down because it should never have gone up, but I can make that
Should
case about lots
never
of
was
things.
created.
Right. I can make that case about
Some
lots
say.
of things, but this will be one that is, these drawdowns are notable, and they haven't had a massive, I'd say, other than software unwinding, other than like moves in gold, silver, whether they're all actually in the same camp. What's going to be the catalyst to get these things moving to the upside, right? I think that is the part that the market's going to look at. But my point was, the S&P hasn't had a big, massive reaction to any of this, which is healthy. We've seen that broadening. We've seen, energy pick up the baton a little bit. We've seen industrials, even real estate, pick up the baton. So it's a healthy market. The market's chopping around. And, it fits to be diversified. I know we overuse that word,
Hmm.
but it is important. And, I'm very happy this year looking at our portfolios that
Hmm.
we have been diversified and owned other things,
Hmm.
because it has helped you a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it really has. And in some years, yeah, as we've discussed for the last 5 years, it's been, yeah, if you own the Mag 7 or some concentrated portfolios, you've far outperformed in most cases the S&P or whatever your major benchmark is. But yeah, finally, common sense is coming to play where a diversified portfolio is the way to go. Just real quickly, some of those numbers that Jason mentioned, or some of those names, give you some specifics on those. SanDisk was a stud today, 10.65% gain. And 70 cents to 599.34. Micron up $37.09, 9.94%. Microsoft, again, still struggling. That's that software play you were just mentioning, $8.90 loss to 404.37. Generac, I mean, this is a huge move. $32.69 gain, 17.93% to 214.99. What's interesting, Dennis and I think 2 Mondays ago, we were talking about obviously financial and AI and stuff like that. And I brought up Caterpillar. It was not long after they'd released those earnings numbers. One of their big pockets of growth was on the power generation side of things. What is
Sure.
that? What? Because they put those big old cat generators in all those data centers, and it looks like Generac's getting a little piece of the business, which I don't know. I'm a cat guy when it comes to generators like that. So I don't know about how that's done, but their CEO today said, yeah, that's a big part of their growth there. So that's interesting. Usually that stock just moves in the wintertime and then falls apart in the spring and the summer. But when, electricity gets a little bit more stable. So you just never know anymore. I tell you, it's just, it's fun to watch the rotation by all means. All right. Speaking of rotation, hey, you going to rotate out of working hard and time to retire? Well, we're going to give you 10 signs that you may be ready to retire when we come back. Let's turn it over to Jack Saban. He's got news, traffic, and weather. Hey, Jack, come back to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. Pleasure to be with all of you, joined by Jason Gaunt. Once again, we finished down 67 on the Dow. The Nasdaq gave up 36. The S&P, a big old goose egg for the day, unchanged. All right, we're going to get into 10 signs that you may be ready to retire. And again, we just want to preface this by saying it's not always about the money. It's not about how much you have. It's not about the cash flow. It's also about, and in my opinion, more importantly than anything, what's in between your two ears, right? How are you mentally feeling about this? So we want to start this off by giving you a little bit of data behind this. Because if you're feeling like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready to go, man. I'm out the door. You're not alone. We found a study from Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies. They said a large share expect to continue working well past traditional retirement age. Matter of fact, 36% of employees they surveyed expect to work past the retirement age, which normally is 65. Now they're saying it's 70 or older, or they don't plan to retire at all. So pretty interesting. About 69% believe that even if they work until retirement, their savings won't be sufficient to meet their needs. So, how are you going to know that you are ready to retire? The answer is, again, both emotionally and financially. And that's what we're going to cover more the emotional side of it. But I got one more stat I want to share, Jason, and that is this. According to the Federal Reserve, Americans age 55 to 64 have roughly $185,000 in median retirement savings, far below the $1.26 million target that many Americans say is what they need to retire comfortably. Social Security is typically replacing about 40% of the average worker's pre-retirement income. So, I was shocked at 185,000. That is a very significantly low number by all means. But again, got to figure out what your cash
It's
flows are.
median, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, with that said, what are some of the signs that you're ready to retire? So, a little bit of background. If you're starting to feel a little bit of stress, right? Job just makes you miserable. Links to hypertension, chronic headaches, higher risk of stroke, heart disease. I think we kind of go through all that every day, don't we? We're not ready to retire.
It's the scene in the Airplane when, they're explaining all the symptoms of when you eat the egg and or the chicken and the egg comes out of your mouth and, like, Leslie
Yeah.
Nielsen sitting there
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
basically what yeah, this is
Exactly.
what's happening here, right?
Yep. No doubt about it. So, you start feeling it physically, but let's get down to our list. All right, we're going to alternate back and forth here. So I'll take the first one. Work just isn't fulfilling anymore. You don't feel energized by the work. If you care less what's going on, during your 9 to 5 there, that is a flashing sign that you are ready to retire, right? You need to feel energetic. You need to feel ambitious. As we'll get to start talking about promotions and things, you really don't even care about those, but we'll get to that point. But the bottom line is you're not feeling energized and you're not feeling fulfilled. That's a common sign.
I think number 2, tech fatigue. If you don't think you can manage another new software or deal with some process update, it may be time to check out. We have a client right now that we're working with who's going to be retiring here soon, and that is one of his reasons. Like they're going to
Yep.
go
I
through a
hear that
big
all the time.
technology shift that he is going to be involved with. He doesn't really think it's what they think it is, and he's making the decision to leave ahead of it. And I think it's pretty cool, like that's per this list. But I think we all have technology fatigue. But,
Hmm.
it's just one of those, like many of these points of you sort of created a line in the sand of some kind that you're probably not going to cross over. And that certainly could be one of them.
I'll admit I'm in on that one. It's like you and I were joking off the air. I have tech fatigue today trying to figure out a program that we're going to be using, and it wears on you, and you really do. I mean, I remember again dating myself here. I remember obviously when the internet came out, and I remember having clients go, "I don't even have a computer. I don't want a computer. I don't want to try to understand this thing called the internet." And then time goes on, and finally they get computers. You go through phases, right? So it was the internet, and then you get into sophisticated smartphones, and you go through a lot of different phases of tech. I think now, of course, you're going to see more and more people, Jason, that want to retire due to tech fatigue because of AI, right? Even though AI can be so absolutely incredible, if you work for a company that's going to implement a large project or something utilizing AI, that could be your tipping point to say, "I'm out of here. I don't trust it. I don't like it, and I don't want to learn it." So that's a real serious one. It really is. All right, let's go to our third point. Promotions are not exciting. So if climbing the career ladder feels like I don't care, it's irrelevant in my life, it's impossible, that's a psychological sign that you're mentally done, right? That kind of fills into back to that first point where you don't feel energized. If you're not feeling ambitious, you don't want to work hard, you're not putting your soul and your heart into it. Yeah, that's a telltale sign that maybe it's time. What's our number 4? I love this one.
It's called Smonday, and we often refer to it at my house. But Sunday dread starts early, right? Where the Sunday scaries or Smonday starts Saturday afternoon, right? Where you start to
Saturday afternoon, not even Sunday anymore.
not
Saturday afternoon?
me personally, I'm just saying
Okay.
Monday, when it starts to become earlier, people start to I don't get Monday here, which is good. I love the
Oh,
job.
yeah, I don't either. I actually look forward to it.
I've had Monday heavily at other jobs, but here not so much. Unless the futures are down a ton, that's never fun.
You're
But
right, right, right.
the Sunday dread, right? If that's something that becomes almost debilitating, where alcohol is involved, right? Where other things are involved to make it so you can escapism a little bit, your fear of Monday, right? That's something certainly that you should be thinking about for sure.
Yeah, and let's go a little bit deeper in that because this is something I talk to so many people about. Typically, it happens around, for most people, 5, 6, 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening. You're sitting around, you've had and it really hits you if you've had a great weekend, like with your family, or maybe you got to get out and go golfing, whatever you wanted to do. It's like, man, oh man, that was just a great weekend. And then you go, oh man, I got to go to bed in an hour, and then it's going to all start again come Monday morning. And it sounds like you're the same way. I come that time, it's like, okay, I need to get to bed because I can't wait to get up and go to work on Monday morning. I thank God we love what we do, but a lot of people don't, and that's a tough one to overcome. And what I find with people closer to retirement, that gets more and more. And that's why I laughed when you said Saturday, because that's literally what happens. They actually start like Saturday morning, like,
Oh yeah.
man, I've
Oh,
only
I've
got
been
two
there.
days. Oh, only have one day. Have you? Yeah,
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about it real quick. Yeah, because I've never had it because I've been self-employed, but yeah, tell me
I
about
mean,
it.
you just, some jobs are tougher than others, right? Some,
Yes,
emotionally, physically, mentally, and it takes a lot uh, you have to commit a lot to the role, right? I mean, if
right.
you're really into it and wired the way that we are, like when I do a job, I do it 150%, and
Mhm.
so it takes a lot out of you. And especially if you're working somewhere that you don't feel like aren't happy, or you feel many of
Right.
these reasons where
Unappreciated.
it isn't the place that you feel like you want to be. It's hard to, we've talked a lot with people identify with their job. They very much feel that is who they are, and if they feel like they're not doing a good job, it can add additional stressors
Mhm.
to some people. Let it roll off their back because they're sort of apathetic to the role, and great, it's just a job, and some people are able to do that, others aren't. But I think this
Yes.
checklist is important for people, to feel that if they're really dreading going to
Mhm.
work, and you're of retirement age, it's probably just like anything, a signal of some kind met with other signals as to help you make a decision.
All right, great, great explanation. Let's go to number 5. You're always checking your retirement accounts. Now, you can say, okay, well, I have an obligation to. I've got a lot of money. It's probably one of your largest assets. But at the same time, people that tend to really, I mean, I'm talking
Yes, obsessed.
sometimes hour, yeah, obsessed, hour by hour, day by day. And frankly, folks, this is why not long after the I think it was after the dot-com era, if I remember right, many of the major 401k custodians said no more day trading, right? I mean, I remember having clients that literally would trade their 401k like a brokerage account. And they were doing that on, work time. And finally these custodians, I think they got together with the employers and said, this isn't benefiting either one of us, so let's put a stop to it. They give the clients 12 trades a year, and they're more than fine. But yeah, you're really paranoid. You're watching it, and then what I see, Jason, is they kind of start doing the financial daydreaming. Man, if I can just get another 100,000 in there, or how much can I really earn right now? How much retirement income can I generate right now if I retire? And so you start feeding into that side of it. Let's go to number 6. This is a fun one.
And I think, just adding real quick, if you feel like the account that you're managing is creating a dopamine rush, it shouldn't be a retirement account. It should be
That's a good
called a
point.
trading account, and you should have assets in a trading account to go do that with. Your retirement portfolio should not be your source of dopamine, in my opinion. Number 6, hobbies and volunteering. You're thinking of the next thing, sort of the escapist, right? In all of us, of, if only, and if I were just there, and thinking through the current step and starting to think of the next one, right? You're thinking about more of community goals or other things you'd like to do post work more often than you're thinking about what
Man,
you're
this
going to
one's
do
so
at
accurate.
work.
Yeah.
It could be yet another signal of some kind.
We have woodworking as one of those hobbies that we're on this point. And I'll tell you, I can think of 3 clients over the years that literally, that was the reason they retired. I'm not kidding you. That was the reason they retired. They were avid. I mean, that is an addictive. I did a lot of it in years past. It is an addictive hobby, right? You get such great satisfaction of building furniture or whatever you want to do with the woodworking side of it. And these guys, I helped them turn those hobbies into businesses, and then they were able to retire. And it was really fun watching them. And one guy just took off. I mean, just made a ton more money, quote, quote, in retirement working his hobby than he was when he was employed. Yeah, whatever your hobby is. And again, frankly, folks, we are big advocates. If you find yourself like, I'm not a big guy, I don't think Jason is either. We're not a big guy, when it comes to volunteering and a lot of community work and things like that. It's right. But I would rather get involved if I was retiring, get involved in a hobby that I could make a little bit of money at and get the tax breaks and so on and so forth. Because remember, it's all about what is your reason for getting out of bed every day. If you love doing the community side of things, great. If you love volunteering, great. I know when I retire, one thing that I want to do is I want to give back. I want to get involved in something like SCORE, where you're mentoring young people or young business owners and teaching them all your mistakes and all the things you did right, but all the things you did wrong. That to me would be a great hobby and slash volunteering mechanism there. All right, when we come back on point number 7. Oh, the generational gap at work. Yes, you young folks, you can push us old folks out. We're talking about 10 signs you may be ready to retire. Let's wrap it up with Chris and Snow right now, Traffic Center. Welcome back. Welcome back to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. I made my partner and my daughter laugh when I said that. The Cars music that you just heard,
Out
I
of
said,
Boston.
uh-oh. I said, uh-oh, I'm going to have bad luck after the show. I'm not driving anywhere. I'm not going anywhere because Yeah, every time I've heard that car song since high school, every time, Jason, something bad happens afterwards.
Rick
So
Ocasek. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let me check the pre-market here. Dow futures down 22. Okay, it's not affecting that too bad. So yeah, I'm just going to say nice and safe. Just stay nice and safe. All right, let's go to our next point. We're talking about again 10 signs you may be ready to retire. You notice a generational gap at work. I think it's your turn.
Why me? No, I
Oh,
think
yeah, it's more
you
more to me. Yeah, it's more to me.
once you start feeling like your boss is much younger than you and you don't really care and even feel the divide, I think that's when you tend to find people get angsty, right? They don't, they're working with someone who could be their kid and it's their boss. It becomes something to some folks. Some don't care,
Mhm.
but again, this is just a checklist of
I'd
some
have a hard
kind
time with
that
that one.
you
Yeah.
know that you'd have a hard time with it.
Working for someone younger?
Yeah,
Other
why?
other than you? Well, maybe I'm not. I mean,
I don't
you're
think
someone
so.
smarter than me.
Oh,
Yeah,
stop.
probably
But
not.
I don't think
Probably
you would
not.
have it. I don't think you'd have as hard of a time as you think.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know. I've never had
Yeah.
that. So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. But I think the other point, let's throw in there is you don't have anything in common with your colleagues, right? Because they're younger. You're like I just said, you're talking about your grandkids. They're talking about their
Right.
kids, or they don't even
Right.
have kids yet. They're talking about, oh my God, I get to buy my first house. And you're like, yeah, I'm looking to sell mine and downsize. You know what I mean? You just don't,
Wanna buy
you don't have a
mine?
lot of
Yeah.
things in common. And again, not so much if you're like on a job site or something like that, but if you're in a small office, I've seen this with the clients over the years. It's the generational gap at work. So it's a real interesting. All right, point number 8. You're jealous of retired friends and partners. Oh, I've seen this one so much.
Yeah.
Your spouse maybe retired a year ago,
House,
right?
yeah.
Yep, and he or she, is at home and they're not waking up at the alarm clock like you. Man, I'm telling you, rarely does
Doubly
that ever
hard.
last.
I'm
Yeah,
retiring the day my
yeah,
wife does.
exactly, exactly. And that one's really, really hard. Then for us men, what I've seen happen with the clients over the years is, so the example is the man retires early, and the wife is still working. She wants to work for another year or two for usually financial reasons, and the roles have reversed. And now she comes home and she expects dinner on the table. She expects the house to be clean, like any spouse that is working, and you have a non-working spouse, right? Those are just the things that human beings that we expect. And the men are like, whoa, what are you talking about? I'm the man of the house. I'm not cleaning. I'm not. No, you still need to do that.
Yeah, best of
I've
luck
had
with
more.
that one.
Yep, I've had more fights with. I've seen more fights with clients over that one. But also, you get jealous. Your friends are like, "Hey, Jason, let's go deep sea fishing next week." You're still working. I'm sorry. Well, you know what? We got a tea time at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock on Friday. I'm sorry, you're not off. So you get my point. That's a really, really hard one. So that's one sign you may be ready to retire. Your boss is unbearable, and the idea of working with your manager for years feels impossible. Oh, I've had that one. Clarity could, getting out the door. I had a manager when I worked for GMAC, Jason, and matter of fact, he was the reason that I became a stockbroker because he pissed me off so bad, gave me a terrible review, and I thought I should have got I'll put it in a grade B plus to an A minus, and he gave me a C, which meant I did not get a raise. I was making $32,000 a year, and I needed that, $34,000 a year to try to make ends meet. Didn't give it to me, and that was when I got that review from that guy. That was the day I went home and said, I told my wife, it's like, I'm doing something else related to money, and I answered an ad in the Bakersfield newspaper with Shearson Lehman Brothers. That was it. I couldn't work for this guy
Thank
anymore.
him.
So,
Right.
yep, yeah.
Thank
Thank
him.
you, thank you very much,
Yeah.
buddy.
Right.
All right, let's wrap us up with number 10, the physical signs. This is a
Yeah.
tough
I
one
mean,
too.
fatigue, decline in energy, all the reasons, all the obvious things,
Drugs.
right? You're tired. You're ready to move on to something else. That's clearly a pretty obvious one for sure.
It is. Yeah. Listen to your body, folks. We see this with clients a lot. They just keep pushing, pushing, pushing. And the biggest, shame in the world would be not to have some years to enjoy retirement. That's what you're working so hard for. So listen to the body, listen to the mind. That was a lot of fun, Jason. We'll do it again tomorrow on the John Sanchez Show. God bless. Have a great afternoon.
John Sanchez is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by Sanchez Gaunt Capital Management, LLC on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of News Talk 780 or its parent company, Cumulus Media. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.